r/AskReddit. Serious, drug dealers of Reddit. Have you ever called CPS on a client? If so, what's the story? I used to sell weed, X, and K around 20 years back, and I had a regular that would come to see me like clockwork every weekend. He seemed like an okay guy, excluding the drugs of course, but I can't really criticize here because I was a dealer. And after a while his pickups turned into 5-minute chats, and then to 30-minute stays. During a convo he let slip that he had a son, a toddler, and that he looks after him every weekend. And that when he was at my joint picking up his kid was in the car, the kid was in the back seat. He had a high-ace minivan windowless the whole time. And not only that, but because he didn't want to share his single bed with his kid and risk getting it urinated in, he made his kid sleep in the van outside. But it's okay, because it was locked and parked in the backyard, so the kid was safe. As soon as he let it slip, he was done as a customer. I told him to get pho and never come back on the threat of a severe beating. He threatened to rat me to the cops. I told him that my suppliers saw me as a decent source of income and wouldn't take it very well. He left. It rocked me so hard I felt almost concussed. I honestly couldn't process how sterile and casual he was about it all. And I knew I had to tell CPS. So I called anonymously and said I lived on his street and could hear the kid crying from the van at night every weekend. And that I had seen him incoherent and smelling of weed during the day. I never saw him again, and I don't know what happened to either him or his son. But it has stuck with me all this time, and I feel responsible for his actions in part because he did these things in pursuit of his drugs. I eventually stopped dealing and got my shit together, and the way I felt about this, and the realization that my actions affected people far further from me than I though was a huge part of it. Nothing changes the fact that I contributed to that child's neglect and abuse though, willingly or not. It makes no difference, and it's only one of the shitty ugly things I've done that I have to live with. Reddit. I am overwhelmed. I never expected this much support, much less any, for simply answering a question and expressing my regrets over a poor life decision. Gildings, DMs of caring support, and an inbox full of positivity have made me feel humble. Please forgive me if I don't answer your questions. My heart is heavy with memories, and I have to shake it off as I am due to pick my boys up from school. So, I'm only posting because I have been clean and sober for 3.5 years now, and anything I say I have already been convicted for, and I've officially finished all of my legal issues. I have never officially called Child and Family Services, but I had this one mother who used to constantly call me for meth, and I had never been to her house before. I was a bit of a sketchbag and didn't trust anybody, but after a few months I built a relationship with her where I felt at ease going to her house. When I went to go drop some off, it was child tax day. I never knew she was a mother, normally not an issue for me. I could not care less. I walked into the house and the smell was unbelievable. Cigarettes, sweat, shit and piss. There was broken glass on the floor, 12-inch burn circles on the floor, poop on the floors. The TV was smashed. The bathroom door was literally torn off, and in the hallway, I had seen a little toddler that was walking around with no diaper on. He had his own poop all over him. He was so malnourished he was grey. The mother came to give me her money and I took the bag of meth I had, put it in my pocket, and I told her to buy some diapers for her kid. I told her that she would have to find her dope somewhere else, and walked away. A good friend of mine who had always tried to help me out was a social worker, and I told her who she was and where she lived, and gave her some details so she could make a final decision. I'll always remember that kid. The last I heard he had been taken away, and the mother was in jail. I wish him the best of luck in this cruel world. Edit. Thank you all so much for the support. I didn't expect for this to blow up as much as it did. I love and appreciate all of you. Not sure if this counts, but in the late 1990s, I used to sell reefer part-time while I was in college. One of my regular customers turned his sister onto me. She called for a delivery. No big deal. I went there one time. She had 3 little kids, like a couple toddlers and an infant. Her house was full of cockroaches. I was disgusted. I called CPS, not because of the drugs and babies, but because of how fucking filthy that house was. It caused a lot of problems for her and her boyfriend. They were in the system for a long time. Not sure how it all turned out, but duck that woman. Dealer? Check. Called CPS on a client? Check, it counts. I'm not a drug dealer, but my brother was years and years ago. He said what made him stop dealing was when a mother came to buy drugs from him. She tried giving him food stamps, back when they came kinda like cash, not on a card, and her kids were in the backseat crying because they were so hungry. They looked like they weren't regularly fed. He told her to duck off and buy some food for her kids. After that he didn't sell anymore. I'm not sure if he called CPS on her, but it did make him turn his life around. The little bit that he had after he stopped selling. It's kind of weird to see drug dealers having etiquette, but you know what? Duck it. Good on your brother for having morals. This story really messed with my emotions. Goddamn. My deceased sister told me a story how she went to her friend's home, in a trailer park, to sell her some weed. Knew the girl a little from school. Said it was a garbage pit inside. There were so many cockroaches they huddled in groups on the walls. It was like a horror movie when you turned on a light. Her friend was embarrassed and started crying. Took her to her kid's room and lifted up the mattress. Hundreds of roaches scattered. My sister started crying too and felt so bad for her, but was totally grossed out. So she was like, sorry, but I gotta get out of here. Didn't take her money, wrestled with it for a while because they were schoolmates, but once she figured out the girl was a prostitute and doing heroin, she called CPS. They gave the kids to the grandparents, and Mama's still being a dope horse 15 years later. I called CPS on a neighbor while at the same time selling weed, but they weren't clients. They just beat and neglected their kids. My GF at the time followed up with them regularly, but nothing ever came of it. They never even did a home visit as far as I know, and they were evicted like a week later. I feel like this is the unspoken commonality far too few people are willing to admit. I never dealed, just loved my friends, and 'tis still hits too close to home. My brother's wife severed his parental rights, then left their baby cooking in a hot car till they arrested her. She got the charges dropped just to save her CNA license. She's a hossa beast. Last time I visited, she said the rabbit ears antenna was the government spying on her. How's the kid doing? All their kids are naturally a bit off. Psychopath genes run in the family. He's like 12 now. I suppose he's okay. He's a cute bugger. I dunno if it counts, but my old neighbor friend that sells weed and pills did on some other neighbors he smoked with because they kept leaving their kids unsupervised or undersupervised. Their youngest would walk over to his house constantly if they couldn't find their parents because they expected them to be there toking it up. But much of the time they weren't there either, so he would end up watching the kid for a bit, which became too much because my friendly neighborhood dealer was a senile besides being a businessman that just wanted to smoke in peace. So he called, which started a whole new drama because one of his clients told them that he called. Last I heard, the mom moved all her kids to another state and the dad of the youngest kid moved to a separate state in the other direction. But that family was full of drama. I felt so sorry for the kids. I also called once on them because I saw the inside of their house and witnessed the lack of adult supervision. Nothing came of either of our calls. Wasn't me, but my dead friend whose trap I was at. Jay came in to swap food stamps and groceries for crack with her 3-year-old daughter. Smoked all the rock right there with daughter next to her. That was when I kinda realized it's a ducked up world. There are a lot of people trying to hold this world together. Don't give up on it. I called the dope hook to re-up one night. I wanted to ride along because of the amount, so they said they'd pick me up at the homies. Pulls up with a baby in the middle seat like a 3-5-year-old little girl. Car is trashed and the child is covered in dirt. The hook is out there like they've been up way too long. Out there acting ducking sketchy. So I'm on the mission just looking at my phone, hitting up my people and killing time staring at my screen. We pull up at the spot. They run in and leave the baby with me. I look down and notice she's covered in cigarette burns all down her legs. My heart instantly broke. Hook jumps back in and passes the stash my way. They start jerking the baby by the arm because she was standing up and playing around. The moment they let me out at my spot, I knew what I had to do. Grabbed the license plate and called the Crime Stoppers number and dropped the abuse tip. Less than a week they were locked up. I literally walked away from the scene that week. Been away from that noise for over 2 years. Clean now, but I'll never forget that baby having burns on her legs. Edit. Spell checked. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.